you told me a story which I forgot about, is that you played with one of my best friends, Nate Archibald, when he was at Cincinnati. You played under Bob Cousy. Tell us a little bit about Bob Cousy.
Well, you want the good or the bad?
We want it all. What'd you say? Blind truth? What'd you say? That's what we're looking for, blind truths here.
Well, what Cousy would do, Cousy had an assistant coach. We only had one assistant coach named Draft Young, and Draft was a good guy. He and Cousy were very good friends. And Cousy would roll up the program, you know, and make it, and Draft would roll up the program just like Cousy. So if we lost, and we lost often, the next day at practice, sometimes coach wouldn't talk to us.
What?
He wouldn't, I mean, actually, he wouldn't talk to us. If he had something to say, he'd lean over to the assistant coach and say, tell him to run some laps. And Draft said, all right, guys, line up. Because Bob Cousy was such a winner because of Boston. He couldn't tolerate the level of futility that the Cincinnati Royals team had. And that was his second year with Cincinnati. The first year he was a coach, I wasn't there, and he tried to play and be a player coach. I guess he saw Russ do it, and he must have thought it was easier than it was. That didn't work that well. And that first year, he traded a guy named Oscar Robertson to the Milwaukee Bucks. Ooh. Because the rumor was that he didn't think he could coach Oscar, because they were their status was so huge and it was equal. Yeah. So he traded Oscar to Milwaukee for a guy named Flynn Robinson. But they get Tiny, and Tiny, I remember, Max, the first time I saw Tiny, I made it through rookie camp, and I made it through. Bob Cousy had a camp up in the mountains somewhere out in New Hampshire. Went up there to that camp, and I made it through that camp. So I'm invited to Veterans Camp in Cincinnati. First day I'm at practice, I'm in the locker room, and here comes this kid in the locker room that I didn't think they were going to allow to be in the locker room, because he's just a kid, little guy with some jeans on and hair in plaits. His hair was plaited. He looked like he was about 15, 16 years old. And I'm thinking, what the hell is he doing in the locker room? You know, and I said, oh, that's Tiny. And I was like, damn sure is. Because when he was out of his uniform, did he not look like somebody's child? He looked like somebody. I was like, who does he know? Why is he in the locker room? He shouldn't be in the locker room. This is for the team. But I meet Tiny, and became good friends with him. And we lost.
When you said that, how did that change? Because that was my same vision against Larry Bird the first time. When he walked on the floor, I'm thinking like, this white guy, he's some great white hope. He can't fucking play. And then all of a sudden, it was like, by the time the practice ended, I was like, okay, there's a new sheriff in town.
Well, when Tiny got on the court and he started running, I never seen anybody just run like he ran. He just ran all the time. He and another truly great old-timer, if you want to call him that, he and Johnny Green, Jumpin' Johnny Green, was on the team.
Yeah.
And he and Jumpin' Johnny Green played one-on-one. We practiced at the Jewish Community Center in Cincinnati, so it wasn't as big. The courts weren't as big as a regulation court. But he and Johnny Green played one-on-one full court. Wow. One-on-one full court. That don't make no sense. Wow. But that's how Tiny was. And Tiny, left-handed, small. He could play today in this NBA because he was smart. He understood what to do. But I saw him get 49 one night against somebody and then 55 the next night against somebody else. Now, the year I played with him was his sophomore year. He led the league in scoring and assists.
Yeah, the only player ever to do that.
To do that. And it wasn't because he forced shots either. He didn't force any shots. He just outran everybody and wasn't necessarily a shooter. So he didn't look for shots. He got shots because of how hard he played and how much he was always in the right position.
How quick was he?
As a wink. He was quick, but he also was tenacious. He wasn't afraid of anything or anybody. And he drove at everybody, you know, and he tells a story about driving at Wilt. Wilt let him make a couple, and Wilt said, all right, now that's two, you know. So he also listened. But we used to have some really good, because guys like me, my game was practice. And sometimes, and I'd be running with him and shoot, you know, he got me the pass, and I would dunk on people. I wasn't a great shooter, but I would dunk on you if I got a chance. That was what I tried to do. And had a chance to play sometime, and didn't have a whole lot of success in the league, Max, but I did have a double one time and played one half. I had 15 and 10 in one half against Dave Cowens, which is something I remember.
That is fascinating. Well, we just got the story yesterday, which really was a little confusing to me. The great Bob Cousy showed up at the White House with Donald Trump, and Donald Trump, I think, gave him a medal of freedom, and Bob Cousy walks away and says, Donald Trump is one of the greatest presidents to ever be around. That was confusing to me because of Bob's story that he had with Bill Russell and all the racial epithets that were in there. And he essentially, there were times where he cried because he said Bill Russell was treated and his other black teammates was treated so unfairly. So give me the contrast between the two.
Well, again, you talk about being a boy from a small town in North Carolina. I'm a boy from a small town in North Carolina. And in 1965, years ago, the state of North Carolina participated in the Freedom of Choice Act because the country said you could go to school anywhere you wanted to go to school. So I integrated what had been an all-white high school during that time. I had a chance to stay in touch a little bit with my high school coach, Max, and he recalls when he came and became my coach, and he recalls not knowing all that I was going through, as how he put it, and he wanted to change things. He came, we had lost the state championship by 3 points my junior year. He comes my senior year and wants to change everything. So what Bob Cousy is saying to me is that corporately, that means how you do with your 401k, or how you do with your stocks, how you do with all the things that are intrinsic to economic viability in this country. That president is a real cheerleader for all of those things, and all those things probably, along with his notoriety, along with his celebrity, along with his access, would make Bob Cousy fit in with those kind of things and that president. On the personal level, it's almost like when we're talking about broadcasting. If you broadcast and I broadcast for ourselves, it's different when we do it for our fans. I think the president has conflated, I'm not going to say confused because I think he knows what he's doing. He's conflated the pyramid of being the president. He looks at the pyramid, at the top part of the pyramid being where the president sits. But really, you have to turn it upside down. The president sits on the bottom with all the weight of the citizenry on him. That's who he serves, but he doesn't see it that way. So when Bob Cousy talks about his greatness, it would have to be of a vision of someone being on the top, being served by the bottom. In my estimation, and this is where—
that would be a king, though, wouldn't it? That doesn't sound like a president.
Well, again, he's not serving everybody. He's serving his personal interests. And you serve your personal interests, you put yourself on top. When you serve everybody else, you put yourself on the bottom. And it takes more strength, more gumption, more heart, more soul, more effort, more work to serve everybody. That's not an easy thing to do. Everybody can't do it. Mandela could do it. Other folks can do it. One of my biggest heroes, Max, is a woman named Maya Angelou. And she's had it very simple. She was very simple. This is a blind truth. She said, when you get, give. When you learn, teach. That's simple. But think about how we could play it forward if everybody did that. Just that.
Wow.
When you get, give. When you learn, teach.